Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to your very own Try It Before You Buy channel with your host Karamullah Kadwani. Today is going to be all about celebrating 5,000 subscribers, and it's all thanks to each and every one of you. Was thinking of doing a house overview as promised, but wanted to do something extra special. So here we are with the top 20 tobacco scents I own. I decided on doing this video as the 4,000 subscriber celebrations video got me the most views and perhaps something that you like watching, where we are able to cover more fragrances within a relatively short period of time. After all, we are celebrating you. This will be one of those videos. So before we get started though, if this is the kind of content you like, please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. As the channel and I are in its very infant stages, I'd still say, although we are at 5,000 subscribers, I have noticed that more than 80%, i.e. 83.9% of my viewers still haven't subscribed. Watching the ads, subscribing to my channel, commenting helps the algorithm, and in the long term perhaps will help my channel. As we buy perfumes at full retail, I'm not on any kind of the free bottle brigade. I pay for my perfumes, and so I reserve the right to review them the way I see them. That's the advantage we have of not receiving free bottles, is we can speak our heart when doing these reviews. We are going to start with I wouldn't say least favorites, but perhaps the fragrances I never really reach out for. Also, a factor that affects the ranking, in my opinion, how intense the note of tobacco is in the fragrances. So those will, of course, end up higher on the ranking, and they are more winter appropriate. And so we are getting into the winters. We should be getting into the winters quick, and I should be wearing these more often, inshallah. At number 20, this should shock a lot of you, but it's the side behind the brand and the owner and perfumer Dmitry Bortnikov. Kind of feels like he's just cashing in on the first few releases he's made. They're not the same quality. I've ordered through him again. The customer service was zero. The turnaround time, it took me about 2 weeks to get them to ship my products. Dmitry Bortnikov actually came out to be a very rude person. I wasn't expecting that, but well, that's the way it is. So as I was saying, they smell of not as rich uber luxe as they used to, because I do have the previous batches and I can swear by the quality of those perfumes. The owner has a rather stinking attitude, perhaps, because of which I'm never going to mention the brand, or is always going to find itself towards the bottom of my top tier lists for either genres or brands. I agree with brands like Ansar Oud, though I'll probably have to sell a kidney to afford one more than 30ml bottles from them, or even at a fair price, and welcoming brands and ethics like Arige L'Adore, where they'll either clearly mention the iterations the perfume goes through, so the clients know that they're actually going to get something different, but still different, but not of low quality. So say Ottoman 1, Ottoman 2, Ottoman 3, or Russian Oud, the different iterations he's done, they're still worth the money that you're paying for. Or he'll totally discontinue fragrances after releasing them for a short period of time till the ingredients or the materials last, which makes sense to me, total sense to me. I do understanding working with naturals, you can't always recreate or perhaps can ever create the same using a different material or perhaps even a different batch of the same ingredient. Besides, they don't compromise on quality, as I mentioned earlier. I haven't found a dud in their collection. Most of the new Bortnikovs are something I really don't care for, plus their attitude just puts me off. So towards the bottom of the list is Tabak Dore. Number 19, Xerjoff Naxos, Frag-rant Darling. I just can't get around it though. Honey, lavender, tobacco, tonka beans, vanilla, cinnamon, cashmere, bergamot, lemons and jasmine. It does hint at pure Havan by the house of Mugler. Goes more into a fougere direction with the lavender. With pure Havan you have more of the honey than the tobacco. With vanilla and cherry, cacao, amber, patchouli, styrax and labdanum, and they may remind you of each other, with this one going more into the cherry pipe tobacco direction, if you may. Number 18, Xenial by the house of Navitas Parfums. Kind of similar experience to Roger Creation E. We've already made a mistake, so I'm just including another bottle of Navitas Parfums Xenial. As we reached Xenial in the ranking, I realized that I've already made a mistake. So number 21 is Bortnikov Tabak Dore. Number 20 is Naxos by the house of Xerjoff, which I'm not very fond of. Xenial, number 19, by the house of Navitas Parfums, kind of similar experience to Roger Creation E Enigma, and so we shall talk about that one when we get there. Number 8, you may watch my full review on Xenial. I kind of was very excited to acquire that fragrance as it came in limited editions, and I bought 2 instead of 1. Number 18, Cuba Intense by the house of Parfums de Nicolai. I think it's the granddaughter for Guerlain that runs this house, and her perfumes are of good quality, by the way. It's a tobacco scent, but it's more of the leaves and fresh tobacco like nuances than the burnt ashy tobacco like feel. So it has notes of tobacco, licorice, hay, cumin, lavender, star anise, mint, coriander and magnolia. And again, there's a bit fresh to me, minty kind of spiciness and a boozy facet with the anise. Number 17, Patchouli by Oriza El Legrand, an artisan indie niche house that has been there since 1720 and still exists in the very place. The perfume that we are talking about at number 17 is Horizon. It's an oriental fougere fragrance for men. Horizon was launched in 1925. Top notes are marmalade, tangerine, petitgrain, rose. Middle notes are patchouli, cacao, cognac, tobacco leaf, amber, oak and almond. Base notes are peat, benzoin, vanilla, leather, white tobacco, honey and ambergris. It's a patchouli for sure, and I love my patchoulis, but it's a very thin kind of a wearing experience. I think all the perfumes with Oriza El Legrand were thin, and perhaps the ranking and why I haven't reached for the perfume as much. An oriental fragrance for boys and tomboys. Fragrance of precious woods and oriental agreements. Tabak blonde and soft leather. A note from the brand. Let's get back to the ranking. Number 16, T. Habanero by the house of Rani J. I absolutely love this one. This is such a natural smelling tobacco leaf. Resinous, smoky, animalic. The oud is really funky here. Avant-garde wearing experience or avant-garde wearing experience. It is perhaps the most daring, the most bold tobacco scent that I've come across. Very animalic, funky oud in the base, spices up top, bit leathery, black tobacco and a hint of incense. Quite creamy, very slight sweet hint of sweetness. Materials are upscale and blended to perfection. Very artistic. For the true fragrance connoisseur, may not be for everyone. It's such a personalized experience with the card and all. So Rania, when I ordered the Rania J fragrances, it came with this card saying thank you, best wishes, signed by Rania. I'm not sure if you can see it from here. I shall show it to you when we get into reviewing the house in depth. Number 15 is none other than Enigma Parfum Cologne from the House of Roja. If it was the Pour Homme Parfum variation, would have made it much higher on the list. Though this one's like a diet version of the Cherry Coke experience that you get with Enigma Pour Homme Parfum, is like the more full-bodied Cherry Coke. It's a boozy tobacco, cognac, vanilla, tobacco, ginger, black pepper, neroli, jasmine, benzoin, patchouli and bergamot. There is an interesting gourmand aspect to this fragrance. I love that about it. But more than tobacco, it's more about the boozy cognac and vanilla with the resinous benzoin, and then the tobacco appears. There's a zing with the ginger and black pepper, a very happy and uplifting, fizzy and bubbly fragrance. Most of the fragrances that we discuss in the list, as I mentioned before, are more winter appropriate. The Parfum version definitely is. Perhaps the Parfum Cologne you could wear in the summers, as it's a thinner wearing experience. It's less full-bodied than the Parfum Pour Homme. Number 14, we have Dior Toubacolor. It's a fruity, plummy, honey kind of tobacco with tobacco, honey, tobacco leaf, smoke, white tobacco, plums and amber. The tobacco in here has faint animalic nuances with a kind of roughness, and the honey is intense. Fruitiness with the plums and ambery. There's a feel of smoke, and yes, there's a smoky ashiness when you smoke. I should know. Number 13, Amouage Boundless for men, tobacco and resins with a lot of spices and fruity touches as well. There's a kind of lightness to the fragrance, but longevity is through the roof. Lingers in the air for long. Great fragrance. Wonderful creation with tobacco, resinous with spices, fruity citrus touches as well. So it has notes of tobacco, myrrh, cardamom, vanilla, blood orange, ginger, elemi, benzoin, incense, cacao, vetiver, patchouli and gaiac. Number 12, Journeyman by the House of Amouage. Don't despair. There is an Amouage which has made it to the top 3. This is definitely one of my favorite fragrances from Amouage. It has a rough animalic quality about it. So you have the tobacco leaf, you have the smokiness with the incense, a fiery hot wearing experience with the spices, Sichuan pepper. It has leather, juniper berries, really solid tobacco leather fragrance. Very beautiful. Number 11, Encron de Fumée. And I could switch Amouage and Serge Lutens. These are interchangeable rankings. Encron de Fumée by the House of Serge Lutens, just missing entering the top 10. And don't get me wrong, though this one happens to be one of my most prized possessions, including the next one on the list, it's more of a scent for myself to enjoy when I'm by myself, as it lacks performance in all sectors. It's not a beast mode fragrance, does not have massive projection or sillage. Longevity also seems to be 2 to 3 hours, after which you'll need to reapply. Some of the discussions I've had in my circles with other fragrance connoisseurs have said it's similar to Vanille Havane by Les Indomables. And I see the comparison, but a little different. They wear differently, as per my nose. This one doesn't have fruits and vanillic touches. Vanille Havane is more complex, and Encron de Fumée doesn't wear uber complex. It's rich and it's mostly about the cacao, giving it chocolatey tobacco and rum facets. It's very smoky and basically a smoky take on a chocolatey boozy fragrance. Number 10, we've entered the top 10, and it is from the House of Serge Lutens again. Shuggy, for reasons same as above. It is mostly a scent that I enjoy on my own, and doesn't massively project, doesn't have the longevity, but the smell profile, next to none. Tobacco, hay, honey, rose is just so good. One of the most popular ones. Fumier Turk I do not own, so I cannot speak about it at all. Shergi happens to be a solid release and perhaps till date a fragrance that's still relevant. All starting the niche experience should consider. Number 9, Tobacco Mandarin by the House of Byredo in the Night Whales collection, and it comes in an extrait de parfum concentration. Tobacco Mandarin is quite resinous and very ambery as well. A very prominent mandarin note. There's leather with the tobacco, there is cumin, olibanum, labdanum and sandalwood, giving it the resinous ambery experience. This has rough edges too, with the leather, labdanum and cumin bringing in the animalic nuances. Just a beautiful fragrance. Maybe reach for it more so in the coming winters and we'll move up the ranks. Though there is a fragrance inspired by this one, just more high-end, luxurious and niche we shall discuss. If you've been watching my reviews, you'd already know what it is, so feel free to mention it in the comment if you already know it. Number 8, Arid by Parfums de Marly, and you already know we are getting to the heavy hitters. Had used to be one of my all-time favorite tobacco scents, which in this list has moved around. Cinnamon, tobacco, vanilla, osmanthus, labdanum, vetiver, incense and pepper. One of Oliver Pachot's best creations and the best from Parfum de Marly for sure. Not the loudest fragrance from the house, but very, very sexy. He passed away last year, leaving us with some masterpieces, this one being the one of the many that he's left us with. Number 7, the Dawn from the house of Zerjov, and if you haven't smelled this one, you're missing out on the real deal. Leather chairs, Cuban cigars, a glass of whiskey and total mafioso vibes. Like a boss in a $1 million suit calling the shots. Enough said. Number 6 is Ursa by the house of Tiziana Terenzi, and this one could have been higher, but the top 5 is more tobacco focused fragrances. Here you have a lot going on. Ursa to me is so great. The patchouli here is fantastic. The contrast to the dry fruits is delicious. Booziness with the rum. It does get leathery, which may put some off, but I just love the concoction. It blooms in the heat and opens up becoming fruity, vanillic with that patchouli contrasted with the rum. It has notes of leather, dried fruits, rum, patchouli, elemi resin and tobacco. So we are already in the top 5 in the meat and potatoes of this compilation, if you will. Tobacco Sapphire, the one we mentioned, a more uber luxe version of Tobacco Mandarin. Tobacco Sapphire by the house of Boudicca the Victorious is an extremely rich experience, more robust version of Tobacco Mandarin with the human body odor kind of animalic nuances that you get with the note of cumin, but extremely long lasting. If you've sprayed your jacket with this, believe me, it will take you to the next week. Uber luxe, total love. Number 4, Tobacco Oud from the house of Tom Ford, and this was the toughest thing for me to compile. I'd say the next 3 are interchangeable in ranking, and this one could have made it higher. We are allotting these as per my feelings today, but definitely could be shuffled around. This has always been one of my most favorite private blend collection fragrances. Lots of tobacco, dirty, ashy whiskey note, the sandalwood, patchouli, incense, benzoin and vanilla, bringing in just a hint of sweetness with spices to this otherwise dark and brooding scent. Just blended to perfection. Dries down to an absolute gem of a composition, now discontinued by the same house, Amber Absolute. Word is, this one may get the X too. I'm hoping that it doesn't. It's only available in the 50 ml EDP, and maybe the last ones you can get your hands on. Number 3, Tobacco Honey by the house of Guerlain from their La Art La Matière collection. This could easily be number 2. The honey is so intense. Real big fan of this one, outpacing many. The honey is just so realistic, making this a very interesting wearing experience. giving it that sweet, animalic, powdery undertones and an absolutely gorgeous balance with the tobacco. Extremely long lasting, and the performance on this is a 10 on 10. One may argue that the tobacco is not as intense as the honey, but the tobacco cuts right through the honey and the sweetness that it comes with. Balance is just so important. Fragrances. This is perhaps my most beloved, my most used fragrances in winters, though ranked at number 3. Number 2, as you mentioned, the top 3, there's an unwatched fragrance, so despair not. Royal Tobacco by Cecile Zerokian. Very complex wearing experience. It starts off with a big dose of absinthe. So it's like dark green aromatic with a wet mossiness and incense. May remind you of Memoir Man by the same house, but tobacco is king. You also get the feeling of entering a humidor-like experience where you store your cigars or an old cigar box that's just been emptied out. You still have the different aromas of all the different cigars you've been collecting. You'll get this kind of ashiness, more associated with the ash gathering in the ashtray towards the dry down. Very daring. Cuba meets Oman, i.e. Omani frankincense and Cuban cigars. Cuba is known for their cigar rolling and cigar making art. Dark, spicy, smoky, incensey, wet mossy with tobacco leaves and this ashtray-like feel towards the dry down. So the whole wearing experience is like from the time you enter a humidor when you first spray the perfume till the time it dries down to this ashy kind of ashtray feel. Smoky with the incense. It's like from the time of lighting the finest Cuban cigars to the time you finish smoking it, if that makes sense. And my current number 1 is Café Tabac by the house of Edas de Venustas. It's a New York based niche fragrance brand. This is a fragrance created by Boutron du Chafour. Lots of notes going on in this one. Café Tabac by Edas de Venustas is an aromatic fragrance for men and women. It is a rather newer fragrance. It was launched in 2023. Café Tabac is described as a hedonistic scent that celebrates the undocumented moment. A sumptuous party that goes on for days, endless dinners and all-night meringue dancing under charcoal skies. Smoke meets flowers and spice settles in for the next inhale. This is Café Tabac. Before Edas de Venustas' newest scent was realized in a bottle, it had a name, Café Tabac, inspired by the iconic 90s bars in the East Village. Upstairs at Café Tabac was where Kate met Johnny. Madonna picked up the phone, Leo picked up supermodels. It was a place where the truly glamorous could be truly off-duty. An unself-conscious pre-call phone era that feels so far away as to be longed for again. Is the deep mood of a place to be, creating its own legend, says perfumer Boutron du Chafour. The deep blue smoke of cigarettes, cigars, weed, whatever. We are exploring other paradises, loves, desires and pleasures again and again. The spirit was also present when du Chafour and Gerstner went to visit the Dominican Republic last year for another scented project. It was an explosion of vibrant and chic people from Mexico, France, Rio, New York, different cultures and conversations and ideas and opinions, says Gerstner. We went from a tropical forest to the coast together, but it wasn't until we I'm sorry for my voice gives up on me sometimes. I think it's those procedures and the phenomenal condition. My lungs get tired. I can't talk for long, but I'm going to try to complete this list though. We went from a tropical forest to the coast together, but it wasn't until we were standing in a cigar factory that I looked at Boutron and said, "Can you put this in a bottle?" The result is as dazzling, sexy and complex as the trip. It opens with sparkling notes of expected bergamot and unexpected apple and tamarind fruits. But the overall perfume is an homage to tobacco in many forms. Dry leaves, humid flowers, and a cigar lit by fire are represented thanks to the herbal clary sage and davana. A tint of mango with dried fig and dates, and a rough smokiness using tobacco absolute, tar, cade oil, and cedarwood. An amber accord of secretions and sugars from cistus and labdanum, ambergris, oak moss, vanilla, cacao cord, and Peru balm. At the heart gives way to a darkly rich and resinous base. There is no saccharine here. Instead, distinctive burnt sugar and fresh clove and cardamom are infused with vapors that keep Café Tabac multi-layered instead of perfectly round. It is blended at a 20% concentration, made in the old school hot perfumery style, including a month-long maceration in France. With Café Tabac, there's a mad sensuality that feels like the olfactive equivalent of a twist of orange atop a demi-tasse of espresso, rich with a touch of freshness and tang to where it is to maintain a state of heightened emotions that are sooner remembered than they are recorded. It is quite delicious, and I loved it just by looking at the notes. I love the presentation and the ribbed bottles. Probably a cafe where you can smoke cigars and cigarettes. I'm picking up a honey tobacco effect with woods and ambery touches, spicy for sure. Honey and chocolate. Cloves are very prominent, and I do enjoy that spice and fragrances. Maybe the clove tricking my nose into thinking it's tea-like nuances. Reminds me of Tea for Two by the house of Artisan Parfumeur and the tea effect. Just my 2 cents. That completes our compilation. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Do let me know your thoughts. Also let me know if you already have any of these compositions in your collection, or if you're at least willing to give it a try after watching this review. Do give me a thumbs up if you take anything of value from this. Do share your experiences, and don't forget to comment. Feel free to ask me any questions, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my capabilities. Until the next time, your host Karamullah Kadwani signing out.